All right, VA fam, I am genuinely just very thrilled. I know I say that every time, but I have wanted to get to know this woman better ever since I happened to meet her at Afrotech in Houston. I found out we both live in New York, very different versions of New York, but still the same state, we'll say. I have Latham Thomas on the show today, y'all, and I don't know if we have enough time for me to read her entire bio, but I'm going to read a little bit of it because I need to put some respect on your name, okay? Latham is the founder of Mama Glow, advancing reproductive justice and birth equity through education, advocacy, the arts, research, scholarship, but she trains doulas, y'all. Trains doulas across the country, across the world, really, in different continents. And beyond the business that she has created, Latham is also a distinguished women's health expert, Black maternal health advocate, entrepreneur, one of Oprah's Super Soul 100, which is, I don't know, if I were, I would just wear that on my neck every day. I would just have that like hanging like a chain, just like Oprah said my name out loud in her Super Soul 100. Now, the global community for Mama Glow is over 3,000 Mama Glow trained doulas across the USA, 6 continents. And what I love so much is that you're not just, I think about doulas and I think about the birthing experience, but y'all don't just cover that. You cover the fertility period, the pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, offering hand-holding through bespoke doula services. And you also work through hospitals, through insurance companies. So you are not just like, for me, it's not just that you care about Black maternal health, but you know how to work the system to get the resources to the people that need them the most. And so welcome, Latham, to the Brown Ambition podcast.
Thank you so much, Mandy. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here. I really appreciate you. I also fell in love, fast friends, when we met. And so I'm just grateful. Mama Glow is a global maternal health and education platform, but really the goal is training doulas, nurse care managers, and providing doula matching services to families, hospital systems, designing doula benefits. And then really, as we think about it, as an entrepreneur, which many people are who do this work, we want doulas to thrive. And so we also help to ensure that people get paid and paid well for the work that they're doing and ensure that we can make impact. And so, as you said, the 3,000 doulas that we've trained are, active in the world and doing work. They work with us because we have also a platform where we can match doulas with families, but then they also work out in the world and have their own businesses, right? And so Mama Glow has really become a really powerful platform for expanding opportunity, but then also the foundation has been a really wonderful opportunity for us to advance research and scholarship as well as doula matching services for families that are in need. And so we actually provide pro bono doula services across the country. And in New York City, we're the largest provider of pro bono doula services for families in need. And so if you need a doula and you're in the city of New York, you're likely getting a doula through Mama Glow if you're Medicaid eligible. And so we're really excited to be able to offer that as well. Yeah. I'm so proud of the work that we do daily, but also I always had a dream of being able to do that, right? Like I've had people reach out to me. Some people reach out to me on social or friends reach out and they're like, hey, I have someone in my family who needs a service. And because typically people would pay for this service, right?
And it can be thousands, right? Depending on how long you're working with someone.
Yes, typically thousands of dollars. And so to be able to say, I ask, can they afford it? Or, what's their position they're in? And they'll say, yeah, they're not really in the position. I'm like, okay, great. Have them fill out this form and we can provide a doula. And so just being able to do that and have a system in place and have funding to cover it and ensure that the doulas are paid well is really a dream.
But I have to start with a basic question.
Sure.
How did you start Mama Glow? Where did it come from? What were you doing before? And then when did it become what it is today?
So I started Mama Glow after my son was born. I was living in New York City, which I never really left. And I was a new mother, and I had noticed along the pregnancy continuum that it was really just challenging to navigate the care system here. Thankfully, I connected with midwives. And so my son was born in a birth center on 14th Street. And I had this amazing experience of feeling supported and just really like everything I needed was there. Like the midwives, supported my autonomy, respected me in the practice of delivering my son. And I had this like incredible out of body spiritual experience that sort of led to this vision, but also the sacred mandate and what I've been really referring to as a calling, to do this work. And so my son's 21 now. So this is like 22 years ago, right? That I feel this inside of me surfacing. And so it was really a matter of like, well, how do I go about it? And I didn't have the business skills or acumen, but I did have like a high business IQ. And what I mean by that is a lot of us who, have the tenacity and the sort of interest, but also the healthy dose of naivete who will like go for something, can start things. And I also have a stubborn quality being a Taurus that I don't quit stuff. And so if I start something, I never quit. I'm like a hippie. So I was like, I want to have it at home, or I want to have it like I knew that. So I couldn't have it at my son's father's house. His apartment was too small. I didn't want to do it there. So I was like, I want to find a place where, I can do it. But I did go to, I won't say their name, but I did, before I found the birth center, I was supposed to deliver in a hospital. And then I went to the meetings and I was like, I'm not, something ain't right. And I didn't even really question it. Once I had the feeling that this doesn't work, I was like, we're moving forward and finding something new that feels right. And this is me as like at like 23, right? I'm like, something ain't right in the milk. Let's figure it out. And then so I found this birth center because we were walking back and forth and because I knew it from nightlife. I just would pass by it all the time. And we were like, let's go in. And we went in. And we had a great conversation with the staff, and they said, come in for like an open house kind of thing. Find out that they took my insurance. And here's another thing. I didn't go there at first because I didn't think I belonged, right? I didn't think that me as a person who was basically underinsured because I was fresh out of college. So my insurance ended a year after I finished college. So by the time I was pregnant with my son, like I didn't have insurance coverage, right? And so then I was able to get on Medicaid, and they were like, yes, we take Medicaid. And so my copays were like $5. My son cost $6 to take home. He was like a bargain baby deal. Okay?
Oh my goodness.
It was $6.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? So this is the coverage that I got. And it was amazing because again, everyone treated me with autonomy, with respect, with love. They didn't say, oh, this is this type of patient, because we understand that good insurance to Medicaid, there is a gradient in terms of what you expect in terms of service and what you expect in terms of, people's attitude towards you. And if you have private insurance, people expect to be treated well. And if you're on, Medicaid, people expect to be treated poorly and also have poor access to care. And even like, their, like testing and diagnostics and things like that, you get locked out of because of insurance apartheid. And so I was so fortunate, right, to have this experience at a younger age. And I think, I knew inside, it was something inside of me that knew I wanted to do it this way. And I'm thankful that at the time I had the support of my son's father, and I had this sort of internal compass, right, that kind of guided me in the direction of doing it. But also I think God had a plan of like, you need to have this experience. You need to be able to sort of use this. This is the origin story for what you're going to give rise to, right? And so I needed to have this to kind of have a trajectory of working in women's health, laying the foundation, laying the bricks, right, for what will become Mama Glow down the line. And I think for me, that experience and then the shift from working as an individual, because I did have that calling to individually serve as a doula, right? And I learned so much. I amassed so much information and in service. But then Mandy, one time there was a there was a moment, right? And I think everybody experiences this too, right? At any stage in business and what they're growing something, you have an opportunity, I feel like, that arises in each of us where we're inside of this configuration and things are going well, but you're being asked to do more or called to do something bigger. And so the container that you're inside of no longer fits. It's like when you have to repot your plants, right?
Yeah.
Like they're writhing, to expand and to be,
Or like my son busting out of his 18-month onesie.
Girl,
He's like, Mama, I'm almost 2. It's time. Give it up.
Can we talk about it? Well, overnight,
I'm like, it's going to
outgrow
snap.
the clothes. Okay. Overnight, they outgrow these clothes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you feel that call to expand. And some of us will show up and answer it and be like, okay, I'm going to step into this thing that feels really scary and uncertain. And I don't know because I'm super comfortable here, but like something's pulling me and also even almost in some cases forcing me to move beyond. And so I had that experience where it was not just enough to serve as a doula. I needed to build something bigger. And that's when Mama Glow comes into being, really is at a pivotal point culturally, which is like how a lot of things come, right? In terms of our, when we think about impact, right? And impact-oriented work, is that some critical pieces of reporting came out, ProPublica and the New York Times, about Black maternal health, right?
Yes,
and these were
remember
stories,
this well.
Right? These were stories that shifted culture. It was groundbreaking that there was finally this focus on things that we had been talking about in silos for years that were happening to us. And there was finally on center stage, this discussion happening that permeated the globe. And now everyone was talking about what it is like to give birth in the United States if you are a Black birthing person. And that moment of that sort of, earth shattering, and then subsequently more pieces come and more stories. Absolutely. Heartbreaking is, in nature. Absolutely. Right. And to level set for folks, we're talking about, and many of you have heard these statistics, but to share that Black women in the United States are 3 to 4 times more likely than white women to die during childbirth or due to childbirth-related causes, right? And we're not talking about numbers. We're talking about individuals and people with potential who pass on and leave behind a legacy that is unfinished. And they have children who have to then be raised by community. And because we know that Black women are the crux of community, when Black women die, it actually disconfigures our communities. And so because we are oriented differently than other communities, right? And so it's not only just an individual tragedy, it's a collective tragedy that we experience when this happens, right? And so what I saw in that moment was to create the program that would train the doulas, because it had to be bigger than me. It couldn't just be me out here in the world. It's not effective enough. And I had the knowledge and I had the years of experience. It was like, it's time. So I developed a program. I remember in 2018, I was super nervous to, put out the flyers to announce it. I waited to the last minute because that's apropos of who I am. Pretty much I always do everything last minute. And so here we go. I launched the flyer like 2 weeks before the class is supposed to start. And Mandy,
oh my days,
it filled. And the next one, I did that within 9 months. We expanded from New York to LA, Miami, and Paris. And then COVID hits in 2020, and it's like, what do we do now, right? Because this is an in-person experience. So in 3 weeks, we pivot to online. We test internally with, like the group of people that we have. Basically, we grew like 8-fold overnight. 8-fold. The classes were now like hundreds of people in each class. People were home because of COVID, right? So they're able to be online. And so we had not only the the lack of limitation because of online, but also we had people who were literally at home trying to find purpose. And so all those people came in, and it was incredible. And so we actually really grew the business in COVID, where many people were winding down or sunsetting businesses. We were like catapulted in COVID. And so it was actually a blessing for us. And so while our in-person courses and training and programs, had to collapse during that time, the online really shot up. And then we found really innovative ways to like support community and really support and actually pour into the doulas in ways that we like couldn't in the beginning. Or not even say that we couldn't, but just it was a different focus because we were in person. So we didn't have to think about like the fact that people were isolated. And now we're thinking through how to maintain their well-being, their mental health, how to create, community online and spaces for them for self-care, while they're still practicing, and living through, a public health and, a global public health crisis. Right. And so that's how it kind of expanded, but it was really, not something that I started from a lens of, I'm going to grow this crazy business. It's going to be huge. It was more just like, this is what I would like to do. And I knew in this moment, and I was like, I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then I would also always write down and like project map what I wanted to create, even if I was under-resourced. So even in the times where I could not actually see it through, I would project map as if it was already happening. And I've done that my whole career. Like I'll sit here. It's not like really vision boarding because I do that too, but it is literally like sort of mapping your sort of business arc and really diving into a roadmap and having it in the background, almost like, when you're in a restaurant and there's like that music playing in the background, and you're just like not tuned in, but you kind of, they're playing, one of your favorite songs, and then you kind of go back into what you're doing. It's like that thing stays in the background. And so I'm always aware. And so then when something does surface that we achieve that was in that roadmap, right? Like I stop, I acknowledge, and I also like go back to that and I look to see what other things, so that I'm also becoming more aware of what I'm continuing to do, but also to like loop into where I was and then versus where I am. And so it's been a great exercise. I'm a visual learner as well. So like these types of things are helpful. And then guess what? We were able to work with CVS Aetna to develop a doula competency training for nurse care managers for CEU credits. And so then I was able to take a training that we already had, distill it down to a 3-hour program for CEU credits for nurses. And so then I was like, I checked that off, right? And so things like that, right? Where, I didn't know how it would happen, but and I feel like you shouldn't always try to figure out how, because part of the journey is like, you need to come up with the vision, right? And the vision has to be expansive, has to be bigger than you, has to also feel unattainable, because along the way, you encounter solutions, you encounter contacts, resources, and sometimes find your way to that thing or something like it, or even something better. And so for me, I was able to achieve that thing that I set out for, but then even something better, where we were able to work within healthcare systems in ways that I had not imagined, right? So, but because that was one of the pathways, it created an opening for other things. But I think also too, the consistency of action for me has been one of the things that I feel like has had us stand out, because like I said before, if you're moving around, if you're bouncing, like if you're not focused, then people can't see. People have such a low attention span these days.
Yeah.
Right. And so you think that they see your work and they don't. And so, or they're like, oh, I think I saw this, or it's just, there's too much coming at people. So if you're not consistent, they don't know what to plug into or to focus on, or they don't even know their brain doesn't know what to do. Right. And then also, I think that when you're asking, if you think about or have a belief in a higher power, if you're asking for support and benevolence and guidance and strength on this journey, but you keep switching, it's like hard to, because then you're going to get the thing you asked for, but you're going to be gone, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so you got to also focus so that you can prepare for the blessing. Right. Yeah. And so that's what I always try to do too, is like, I need to stay right where I am so that when that thing that I asked for and that I've been working towards arrives, I actually have the capacity to hold it because I've been building towards expanding, the platform and the ability to scale the business. And I live for people saying to me like how they were impacted. I live for being able to support, staff, and them living their dreams and be able to live full lives. I live for things like that. I live for, my son, like we live for our kids too, right? Yeah. But I think it helps to do this for yourself because sometimes people don't acknowledge, and many of us, especially here, as we're talking about women of color, we are not acknowledged for our gifts, for our brilliance, for the singular, how singular we are when we step into a space and we're the only one. And people will act like we are not here and that we are not doing the damn thing. And it will, in some ways, it can cut. And it can feel like 1,000 tiny cuts. And sometimes you don't feel like you have the ability to keep going, especially if things get challenging, if no one's acknowledging the good you're doing. And so sometimes it's like doing these practices of cloaking yourself with love, of reminding yourself that you're worthy, and also envisioning yourself being acknowledged also, I think feels really good, especially in a world that is always telling Black and brown women and girls that we are not enough. And we are. And by the way, you know how I know we are? Because we don't have a choice, because we have to be forced to outperform everybody, which is why you see Black women, the most educated, population in this country, when we talk about the United States, highly educated, not because we wanted to get all these degrees, because we have to be able to compete. And by the way, when we get into positions, and we were in positions of leadership and power, we could have ran the whole thing by the time we get into a position where a subordinate is maybe paid more, or somebody who's alongside us maybe paid even comparably or more, but we're doing 10 times the amount of work. And so I know that we sit inside of this space of being unacknowledged. I know we sit inside of spaces where we are not reminded of our brilliance and how amazing we are. And a lot of times we do not feel loved. And I'm here to remind us that, part of it is creating community so we can feel that. And then part of it is like a cloaking of self-love, constantly speaking blessing over yourself, constantly being in a space where we do not do what we have been taught, which is to self-criticize, but to actually self-actualize. That is our job here, because nobody can do the work you were put here to do. I can help bring it out of you, but I can't help you do it. Mandy could sit here and podcast all day and remind y'all about who the fuck you are, but if you don't actually get up and go do it, it's this amazing wasted potential, right? It's like if you can't do the thing that you were put here to do, then we don't get to see it. And that to me is the shame, is if there's somebody out there who decides not to keep going, we don't get to see the brilliance and we don't get to benefit from it as a community. And so as Black women, I always want to remind us that pouring in is so critical to keep going.
Oh, thank you for that. Just listen to you build us up all day. I think self-love is so crucial. It is a practice though. Because there's days where I am so good to myself, and there are days when I'm so mean to her. No. And I'm just no, not too much on my friend Mandy. Let's be kind.
Yeah, let's be kind to Mandy. Stop bullying.
Yeah. Stop the self-bullying. Yeah, absolutely. But it has to come from within, and so that is a constant practice. I want to talk I want to admit I'm a little bit ignorant of the work of doulas and the work of, I had pretty cookie cutter vanilla pregnancy and
That's great.
birthing experiences.
That's
I know I'm
awesome.
very lucky. I
Hmm.
also recognize my privilege. I'm a light skinned woman of color. But I want to talk about the doula. Like,
Yes, the
doula
doula.
versus midwife.
Yes, it's a great question.
What are we getting?
Yeah.
What all comes with that?
Yeah, that's
And
a
what
great
can you
question.
expect? And how do you know if you need one
Yeah.
or not?
So first of all, I love that you have asked what the difference is because there is one, and there's many differences, I should say, between doulas and midwives. So midwives are clinical care providers who are trained to provide support along the entire women's health continuum. So you can work with a midwife for well woman care and well care throughout your reproductive journey, starting from menses through menopause, right?
Oh,
And these
okay.
would be typically people who were in our community. And midwifery is actually one of the oldest known professions, right? So we've
Yeah.
always had midwives. And this work is actually really ancient, right? And so what they do is low risk birth, and that's typically for people who are, like healthy and wanting to do birth in one of three settings. It could be home, it could be a birth center, and in some cases, hospitals that do have midwives on staff, right? And those would be certified nurse midwives who will be on staff in hospitals. And so it would depend on your choice and your avenue that you select. So midwives are an option. The midwifery model of care centers the family and their needs. And so it doesn't center around the needs of those providing the care, but those receiving the care. And that's a difference in what we see in our normal sort of healthcare model, where the doctor is sort of there's a hierarchy and the doctor's at the top, right? And it's really the physician that's centered versus the patient. So a doula is a non-clinical care provider, meaning that they provide all of the things outside of the clinician experience. So that is going to be emotional support along the pregnancy and birth continuum. It'll be education, advocacy tools. If you have a partner present, they're going to support your partner and get them up to speed on how to best support you through the process. And also, it's about, one of my clients calls it like having a producer for your birth, right? Somebody who's thinking about every aspect of this experience and how it will go for you, and making sure that you have everything you need to navigate the experience. Now, a couple things to think about, when we talk about advocating, and we constantly have this conversation about Black women advocating for themselves, and you got to advocate. Yes, but let me give a caveat. There's two things that I like to say about this. One is that you cannot advocate and birth at the same time. Birthing is about surrender. It's about transcendence. It's about opening, softening, being vulnerable. You have to be in a space where you feel safety, you feel dignity, you feel belonging, you feel like you are held, and in that you can actually, the hormones that are designed to help facilitate birth can actually flow, the experience can flow. If you are fighting for your life, if you are fighting for your safety, if you have to compromise your safety for your dignity, if any of these things are happening where you do not feel comfortable, you cannot birth. So I want to just say that, because this idea of advocating is about defending. It's about self-defending. It's about protecting yourself. How can I also protect myself, but then also birth, right? I can do one or the other. I cannot do both. And so we need to create atmospheres and settings that do not require advocacy, that do not require me to fight for my safety, fight for my dignity, fight to be seen and heard, fight for medication, for pain, fight for, I should not be having to do this, right? And this is what Black women have been saying all along when they talk about the experience of medical racism in hospital settings, right? That's number one. The other thing I want us to think about when it comes, to this process is, in lieu of, or as I should, in addition to not being able to advocate, while you're actually trying to birth your babies, is that, when we're moving through this process, we feel this is a space of deep vulnerability, right? This is a space where, people are not able to, when you're actually birthing, a couple of things happen, right? Your brain is in an altered state of consciousness. And what typically happens is there's a lot of decisions that you're being asked to make where you're not in the frame of mind to actually make those decisions, right? And so a lot of things happen that are non-consensual that people feel coerced into doing or consenting to in a setting where they should be protected. And so another thing,
Like what? Like,
well, like signing a paper for an epidural, right? Like, how can I do that when I'm in active labor and I'm in pain and I'm in and out of contractions? How can I sign 10 pages of paperwork and read it and really understand what I'm signing off for? Right?
Yeah.
And so you can't, right? You can't do it in that state. And so I think that
that's why you need a birthing plan.
is why you need a plan, but also you need a doula, but you also need to read this information and know about it before, right? We can't be in the moment trying to figure it all out. And
That's
I think
one
that
thing that my
happens a lot.
hospital did do is they were like, we need a birth plan. And a lot of their nurses were midwives, I believe.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I had this really nice hospital. I'm curious though, like when I think about doulas or midwives, is that person catching the baby?
So the midwife absolutely could catch the baby.
Okay.
A doula is there as support. So the
As
doula is not
support.
there to deliver the baby, but they are there to like be an extra set of hands, someone who's helping
Okay.
you. Yeah, they're like a
Are you,
cheerleader for your birth.
is it best to have both?
Yes.
Do you need the
Because
combo?
You
Okay.
need the combo. Because it's a dream team. Because it's like the clinicians do clinician things, right? So they're birthing the baby, they're monitoring you, making sure that you're safe, taking care of all the clinical needs. But then the doula can do all the emotional stuff, like, like feeding you the water between contractions, giving you massage or comfort measures while you're experiencing pain, breathing with you, maybe saying, okay, let's walk or let's dance or let me, use this technique on you, right? Yeah, dancing is very helpful, right, in labor. But changing positions, like all these
Let
things.
me push the peanut ball in between
Let
your
me get
legs
the
and help
peanut ball.
you flip you over.
Yes.
Yes.
All of these things, right? The hands-on support is what the doula is doing. But another thing, like to think about it like this, I always say to people, like our job is to protect your memory of the experience, right? Like I'm here to think about how you recall your birth. I'm invested in that story, right? I'm invested in what that looks like. When you tell people what happened, when you recall it for yourself, when you tell it to your children, what are you saying, right? When you have that, when you undergo the experience, what is the story you tell? And part of what we're doing is preserving that, right? Preserving the experience, preserving the memory of the experience. And the doula is there really like as that, the keeper of the birth village, right? Like there's a bunch of people who are part of the birth, right? You might have a lactation provider, massage therapist, nutritionist. You have your OB or your midwife, and you would have an OB or a midwife, right? Like typically people would have one or the other, and then they would have a doula, right? And so the OBs and the doulas work together if that's what you select to work with an OBGYN, or if you decide to work with a midwife, and the midwife and the doula work together, which is great, and people, if they're going to do a hospital birth, not everybody's a candidate for a hospital birth. Some people are better for home birth or out of hospital birth in a birth center. Some people are better suited for that experience. And then some people are most comfortable, but also best suited in hospitals, depending on like what some of their needs are, right? And regardless of what you have going on, even if you have a complicated birth planned, like some people know that they have a C-section planned because of a health concern, a doula is tremendously helpful in that experience, as well as a postpartum and recovery experience.
I think the postpartum experience is one that is so, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I feel like there's a lot of focus before and during the labor, but then after it's very much like maybe you'll get someone to come squeeze your boob for you and teach you how to do the C hold. And
Right.
no, there are more resources. I remember I went to a lactation support group at my hospital after. I had to seek that kind of stuff out though, and just having a non-mother, like a non-relative of yours, but just someone who's there for your best interests and who really knows what to expect. I love the idea of having that sort of resource postpartum. So when you're And is that something that a doula can provide, like,
Absolutely. There's
with the
postpartum
feeding and
doulas.
like
Yeah.
are they sleeping enough? Am I, like, how can I navigate this? Is this normal? Is that normal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So there's a
okay.
couple things. So postpartum doulas, this is the role, right? To come in and make sure that you feel confidence in your transition into new parenthood. A couple
Hmm.
things to think about with this, right, is that you have things like baby nurses, right? They come in, they're thinking about sleep, they're changing diapers, they're feeding babies, they're doing a lot of like hands-on support, but they are not really there for you and when you just gave birth, right? Like the people who are there for you really is that postpartum doula who's helping you with recovery, helping you to get those underwear on. If you have like the pad sickles and you're putting on the postpartum underwear and it's a whole thing, helping with things like that, helping with meals, right? Maybe organizing a meal train, making sure you're having adequate nutrition postpartum, helping you with things like organization, like how am I going to organize the nursery or my space or where the diapers go versus where the breast milk goes versus where the bottles go, like all these things helping you to put things in order and organize your life for success, right? So they're thinking about systems as well, and also there for you to help you build confidence as a new parent. So a doula can also help you as you're changing diapers, help you with skills or with swaddling, teaching you things, but also not doing it for you so much as like helping you do it. And then thinking about like, okay, when the baby goes down, like it's time for you, right? So they'll observe feedings, they'll make sure you're eating, resting, but then also we'll spend some time helping you process your labor experience, do things like like recap that experience with you, maybe also even help you to, if you've had some experience where maybe there was challenge, come on the other side of that to be able to process that experience so that you're not carrying the pain of what that might have been like or trauma for some people into the next experience, right? Or into your parenting,
Oh,
right? Help you to
interesting.
close out an experience of birthing as well, right?
That's such an interesting point, especially if you've had a not great experience. Sometimes
Yeah,
you're in the moment and you don't really know how to process it, and then afterward you start replaying things, and then it
yes.
can start to really like, oh, that's so... And so with a doula, I mean, do you just show up at a certain hour? Like, okay, postpartum, I'm gonna have you here from 2 to 5 p.m. every day,
Yeah,
or
yeah. You design it however you
okay.
want. For folks who find the right doula, right, there's a vibe, there's an energy. So when you're meeting and you're interviewing, you're like, oh, like we get along really well. And you think, oh, we have some cultural, things that may line up, or this is happening in my life. And you're, oh, cool. So it's like there's sometimes these areas of interest or overlap in terms of like culture or lifestyle or background and things like that that can also help bridge those gaps. But most of the time when people are looking for this, they're kind of ready, right, to like open up and or need a container to open up into. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, more often than not, people are isolated in this experience. A lot of people come to it and they don't have friends who've had kids, or they may be the only friend they know pregnant at the time, or they may be in a new
Mm.
city, or whatever's happening in their life, or like you lived through COVID, right? Like a lot of people having babies in isolation with no family members around. Like that's struggle. That's hard,
Trauma.
right? Like
It's
there's a
hard for me to
lot
go back to that
there.
time.
I could understand why, because there's a
Yeah.
lot there, right? And so the doula's role is to help mitigate that and to help you feel more safe and calm, but also held in your vulnerability. Like I like to think about how we swaddle newborns, like swaddling a new family, swaddling a new mother as they navigate this experience, right? And the doula does that really well.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
for you as the doula, it must be hard to make that connection and then move on down the road. I don't know, pack
yeah,
up your little doula suitcase. I don't
I know,
know.
right?
Do you stay in touch with your...
Yes. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people I'm in touch with still, and folks
Did
send
I
me.
read that you were Alicia Keys' doula?
I
Is
was.
that like a known... Okay, I was like, that... I don't feel like that was public.
It is
Um,
public. I love her.
oh,
She's been
wow.
really great. We actually get to do a partnership later for Mother's Day, which I'm so excited about.
She
But
does strike me as she's so ethereal and earthly. I'm just like,
yes,
of course she would have a
she's such a,
doula.
yeah, she was so into it. It was great. I love
Yes.
her. Yeah, so she's great. right?
So do you still do it? I mean, like, is it hard for you as a business? Now your business is growing. Now you're
I
training the
cannot do
doulas.
births anymore, unfortunately, because of my schedule. Because I
Oh,
also
okay.
teach in university. My course was embedded at Brown University, where I
That's
teach,
right. You're
right? I
busy.
teach medical students, medical anthropology students, bioethics, public health, OB-GYN, pre-med.
I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, you're hoping to get to that level where you're not
Yes,
having to do the day to day and that you
yes,
can focus on the bigger picture growth strategy and just
yes.
increasing the reach.
Yes, creating more opportunities and all that. Yeah, which is a better use of my time as an individual, right? To make
Yeah.
more opportunity for 3,000 people who are in our network versus
Yeah.
something just for me, right? And so that's how I kind of see, but I have had the privilege of doing, I think the last you know, I would say the last couple of births, it was really like one a year, because I was doing like 3 to 4 a month, back in the day.
Oh my
But
day.
then,
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah, so then I got to like, I would say like last year, or in the year before was like once, that I was able to do them for people who I really love. Like I've done, like Alicia, like you said, and Ashley Graham, Anne Hathaway, DJ Khaled, a lot of, people in, I
Did
guess,
all
the
these people have home
industry.
births? I think Ashley Graham had a home birth, right, for her twins.
She had a home birth.
I
Yeah,
think
she had
she
two home
posted
births.
something
Two
about
home
that.
births. Two
Sorry?
home births. She had two home
It
births.
looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. I mean, I had a great, beautiful experience and I will cherish it. But it also looks, I mean, just the pictures. I love looking at pictures of births now. And some people
It's
get
cool,
weirded out
right?
by it, but it is the most beautiful
It
thing.
is. Because you know what's so special
I
about
could just
birth?
get like, I'm like buzzing just thinking about it.
It's
Magic.
awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Also because it happens once, right? Like you only have one birthday, and then after that it's just anniversaries every year. It's one
Yeah.
birthday. And so when you capture that, you're capturing the one time that someone arrived for the very first and only time to this planet, right? Through this portal of the body from
Of the
heaven or
mother.
wherever they came
Yes.
through darkness into light, they are born. And it only happens once. And each time, and you've been able to do it twice, right? Each time it's the first time again, right? Like it's the only time with that baby each time, right? And so you get to do it over and over, which is beautiful. If you do it more than once, then you've had the opportunity to be reborn again into motherhood. But like people have to understand what we want to protect is the sanctity of this experience because it is holy, it is otherworldly, it is to be protected. When they come on the other side of that, it's like they can use the power that emerges from that experience of birthing to ask for increase in their pay at work, to ask for a raise. They can use that
Yeah.
energy to ask and demand for what they want in other spaces. They use that to claim up and take up more space in the world. Literally, your body expands and takes up more space, right? Like the ones who get to live into that power in that moment bring that with them.
Yes.
And so that is another reason why it has to be protected. It's not just
It's a
about
huge
this
opportunity.
beautiful process. It is a huge opportunity for us to actually become more self-actualized, right? If you come to Mama Glow Doula training, you'll learn all of this, which is what doulas are learning, nurses are learning, healthcare providers are learning, because it needs to be known. And we are the market leader. So if you want to learn how to do this, if you want to, have this experience for yourself, you can hire one of our doulas, but you certainly come to the training. And we have lots of people who come when they're pregnant because they want to be able to carry this with them into these spaces so that they feel informed,
Wow.
right? And so that's another thing to think about too. Take doula training just to even prepare you for birth itself, right?
That's really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes. Latham, I could talk to you
I
forever.
know.
Latham Thomas, thank you so much, y'all. You check the show notes for Mama Glow, how to go to all of the trainings. If you want to get doula certified, trained, what's the
Yeah,
word? Okay,
certified.
certified.
Yeah, there we go.
And find out more about our beautiful, I want to call you the Glow Maven because
People
that's
do, that's fine.
you are on on Instagram. Find her at the Glow Maven. What else did I forget?
I'm just so
Well, we'll have
thankful.
you back. We'll have you back
Yeah, I
anytime.
got to come back. But I love
Yeah.
you. I'm so proud of you. I just have to say this,
Thank you.
y'all, that people like Mandy and what you are doing here. And even when I met you, I was like, okay, first of all, like fast friends, love her,
Yeah.
energy all the way, like just emanating energy, like dripping in love and support of other women. But the other thing that I really love is that you're like, talking about how you want to continue to build what you all have done so beautifully here, to impact more of us. And I love that you were like, not, it was not enough. Like as she was speaking to me when we met at Afrotech, one of the things I took away was that there was this level of like satisfaction, like look what we've done, but also I know we can do more. And it was like that I found really inspiring, that you want to continue to impact people, you want to continue to touch people, and that you're driven to do so. And so I just think that's amazing, because sometimes we get to a place where we're like, this is cool, and then we shift our focus. And what I found in meeting you was that you were like, no, this is a time to go deeper and then find other ways to do more and explore other tentacles. And I found that to be really refreshing. But also just know, y'all, she reaches everybody. This is an amazing pod. I'm so honored to be on here. I was so excited to be invited, first of all. I feel honored because I'm listening. Like, this is one of my shower listens, by the way. So I'm thankful to be on here. And I just appreciate you so much for the opportunity. And thank you again.
Listen, the way that we gas each other up as Black women should be studied by science, because
It has to
literally
be, right?
my face hurts from just like the smile I've had to have
I'm
plastered on this whole
serious.
time.
You're
Ugh,
singular. Like you are. And I'm just
amazing.
thankful for you.
I'm so thankful to know you too, Latham, and whatever forces came together to put us at that dinner table together. Just thank you. Oh, right back
Right?
at you.
Yes.
Love. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, Latham BA fam. Check the show notes for all links on how you can stay tuned and learn more about Mama Glow.